Running commentary. We are exploring listening to albums. We sat down and we listened to the artist's vision and concept. Culture Club, Color by Numbers. This was the first album that I'd ever received from my parents in my initial interest in pop music. The producer of the album is Steve Levine. Come a Chameleon was a massive number one hit record, the best-selling record in the UK for 1983, staying at number one for 6 weeks. As a result of it being such a massive hit, it is one of those records that when it comes on, you're like, okay, and you prepare yourself. It's not necessarily a pleasant experience. It's not because it's not a good record. It's a record that was very, very successful. And what sometimes happens with records which are very successful is that once you've heard them 1,000 times, there is no ability to listen to them any further without them annoying you. I still think the bridge is the best part of this song, the every day is like survival refrain, and I almost wish that he'd based the song more around that than the whole kind of Come a Chameleon and, him on a steamboat going down the river. I was not really that interested in, to be perfectly honest with you. But who cares? It was their biggest hit record. It remains their biggest hit record, and who cares what I think? It's a Miracle for me is it's very catchy and it's very effective. I don't care that much about it. I think it's fine. I think it's okay. At this point, I'm kind of off the boil with Culture Club. I prefer It's a Miracle now to when it was out, but it's not my favorite song. Phil Pickett is the keyboard player for Culture Club, and that's really important to bear in mind, especially with some of the big keyboard tracks that are coming up. He also provided background vocals and was a key member of the group Sailor from the 1970s, who scored hits with A Glass of Champagne and Girls, Girls, Girls. Next up is Black Money, which is definitely my favorite track from the album. A lot of the album's success is to do with these vocals of Helen Terry, who wailed her way through many of their hits, and on the background here. Solo career was launched for her. I believe she had a number 26 hit with Love Lies Lost in 1984. I think she works very well as a background vocalist. I don't know that I'm ready to listen to an album of her, but Black Money was the song where you thought, okay, maybe these guys are really working with something serious and solid here. It's not just melodic pop. There is actually some soul and some heart to what they're doing. And so Black Money really is going to be a really important track on this album in terms of my final appraisal of it. That's The Way I'm Only Trying to Help You. Great at the time. Hasn't held up that well. It's kind of repetitive, and at this point, Helen Terry's starting to get on my nerves. I love it a bit, but really, there's only so much. She's really wailing, and she goes on and on this, and That's the Way to me has not really held up. Church of the Poison Mind is an infectious smash. It is really important to their career. It really kind of cemented their kind of international thing. And just so you know, Culture Club's name was John Moss's idea, as they turned around and realized that they had an Irish transvestite on vocals, a black Briton on bass, an Anglo-Saxon playing the guitar, and a Jew on drums. So the Jew on drums decided that they should be Culture Club as opposed to In Praise of Lemmings, which was their initial name. Church of the Poison Mind is a brilliant record. It was brilliantly marketed. It had been a hit earlier in the year, and it certainly drove album sales as people gathered to collect an album that had now two hit singles on. Miss Me Blind is the next song, which was a US top 5 hit. Was not released as a single in the UK. It's okay. I'm not crazy about Miss Me Blind. To me, it's a little bit blah. It lacks the character of some of their other songs. I'm not crazy about it, and I'm certainly not wanting to offend any US fans of this song, but it really just does not do anything for me. Culture Club, just so you know, were the first group since the Beatles ever to score 3 top 10 records from their debut album. So this was a band that really, had they handled their career differently, could have lasted and have gone the distance, but as we know, that wasn't to be. This was not helped by the relationship by John Moss and Boy George, who were keeping their relationship private, and apparently physical and verbal abuse was sustained. I'm not sure from who by who, but All I do know is that it was not making life in Culture Club very easy. The other thing that I'm aware of is that the success happened so quickly, and as good songwriters as they were, the demand for their material outrun what they had available. There wasn't enough material to meet with the demand, which for my money explains Waking Up with the House on Fire, which was a complete and utter disaster in my opinion. Mr. Man, this is my first time hearing it since the 80s. It will probably be another 20 years before I hear the record. Unimportant, kind of fun, kind of bouncy, fits into the album, but doesn't really matter for me. Another Culture Club fan, they won the Grammy for the Best New Group, and they were up for the Best Vocal Performance, but was not to be, as Sting got that for Every Breath You Take in the Grammys of February 1984. Stormkeeper's the next song. I couldn't tell you the first thing about this song. I heard it earlier today. I've completely forgotten about it. I think that the experience would be the same for you. It's not memorable, it's filler. Victims was a smash hit, and it remains with the turkey and the Christmas decorations of 83 as a crowning glory of their career. It was never equaled. It was never bettered. The video was great. They looked great. The sleeve was great. It was the pinnacle of their career, and you almost wish that rather than mess it up, they just left it right there. Something else that I found very interesting, and I realised that so many places in London or in England have ham somewhere in the word. Birmingham. For instance, John Moss was adopted and raised in Hampstead, and Mikey Craig went to school in Hammersmith, and Boy George went to school in Eltham. And I was looking for a quadruple, but sadly Roy Hay let us down by being native to Essex. Boo, Roy. What's the worst that could happen? I'm going to listen to the digitally remastered with the 6 extra tracks, whatever it is. It was not necessarily a rewarding experience. Manshake, I can see why it wasn't included. I think the title... There was lots of men and boys in the titles of Culture Club records, which I think got a little bit confusing as people woke up to the fact that Boy George was a man and all of his songs about men and boys became a little tiresome. So Man Shake certainly did not go over that well with me, and I could have done without that. Mystery Boy, Suntory Hot Whiskey song. So I'm presuming this was some kind of promotional campaign record. It worked as something that they would do. But there is an I'm a Wonderful Thing, Baby lyric lift from there where they say, take a look at me, I couldn't look no better. It's like, really? You cannot possibly, as Culture Club, copy a lyric from Kid Creole and the Coconuts. That's like social death. Next up came a live version where we spent a minute introducing the band to do a cover of Melting Pot, a Blue Minx hit from the early 70s, and nothing was added here. I get that it was a clever idea to say, okay, we're Culture Club and we're going to cover Melting Pot, but you've got to really bring that triumphance to Melting Pot in order for it to work. It wasn't triumphant. It was a bit of a scattered mess, so no brownie points for that. The other shock comes when they actually, for the first time, do a song called Color by Numbers. Here it is. Here's the title track. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. This is drivel at its... I cannot believe that you would attach this song to the name of your biggest selling album. This went nowhere, has no character, it's completely unmemorable. They turn it all around on the last track. And how do they do that? Well, first of all, nobody is singing on this record, so that really helps matters. The track is called Romance Revisited. They'd done it before with Time Clock of the Heart, where they'd taken the vocals off and just allowed the backing track to play. And you suddenly realize what made Culture Club so successful was this symphonic, orchestrated, really beautifully turned out, almost classical piece that brings a tear to the eye. It's so beautiful. So Romance Revisited is the music of Victims by itself, which when you take it by itself is really... No drums, by the way. You don't have any of it. It's just the instrumentation. So Romance Revisited scores the Color by Numbers extended album some brownie points, some much needed brownie points, because out of all of those extra tracks, it's the only one. I can give half a point to Mr. Uboy as being in keeping with what it is that they do. I was devastated that Culture Club didn't rise to the occasion and capitalize on the potential of what could have turned them into a supergroup. They could have, with focus and with the right teams of people, they had the world at their feet. They had the Grammy. They had the hit records. They could have, with focus on their career, if that's what they were interested in, and let's be fair here. This had nothing to do with Mikey and Roy. This had to do with Boy George using drugs and being in a relationship with another band member, so that their focus was taken off of moving that group forward. And I was devastated that Culture Club didn't make it in the end, and they got stuck in the 80s. And their comeback in the 90s was of no particular relevance to me. I was not against Boy George's solo work, and he was very instrumental in the gay rights movement and anything of that nature, and a very avant-garde figure and an important spokesperson. But how nice it would have been for that passion that he had for his causes, if he could have put his focus of those passions back into the music, there'd be more hit albums for us to enjoy at this stage of the game. I am going to award the album 67%.